Hello and welcome to PPC Live, the podcast, formerly known as PPC Chat Roundup. My name is Anu, the founder of PPC Live. And if you're used to hearing from PPC experts about how to ensure that we are keeping up with the ever-changing landscape, don't worry, you are still in the right place. But instead of relaying what the PPC experts are saying, I'm bringing the PPC experts to you. Every week, I'm going to be speaking to a different PPC expert about their biggest F-up and how they've turned things around. So we're talking heads of teams, paid search directors, and heads of departments who share about what went wrong, but how they overcame it and continue to be a success in the industry till today. So today we've got Matt Shenton from one of the biggest global agencies, Croud. They've got a New York base, they've got a UK base, and Matt himself talks about one of his experiences from his early career, a story that he doesn't even think that his current team may know of yet, about him overspending and how that went about, what the reaction from his manager was, how it was quite neutral, but it actually worked for him. It's one of those not one size fits all. So yeah, share some great stories about that. And as someone who's actually, I would say probably one of the few people in our industry who is highly educated in the area of the field, because I've spoken to loads of people who did archaeology and are in marketing and are doing it well, but he actually has AI education experience. He's got a mini MBA as well. So he's got some very amazingly intellectual advice to give us about the AI revolution and how we should approach the future of paid search. Yeah, let's go speak to Matt. Hello, Matt. Welcome to PPC Live, the podcast.
Hi, Anu. Thanks. Great to be here.
Amazing. Yeah, I say amazing a lot. I'm sorry. Anytime I find everything amazing. That's my filler word. Yeah, I mean, Matt and I, we met at SMX Advanced, like literally earlier this year, first time in person. And it was just so lovely it's always great to meet other very eager paid search professionals in our fields, especially people who come to events. I don't know. I think the people who come to events are different. We're a different breed of people. And actually, it's always like we're suck of the punishment of the whole talking about Google. And we're not okay with it just being our 9 to 5. We really want to get involved and be in a room with loads of other people talking about it. But I feel that's where you learn the most. Matt leads a very talented team at Croud. I know they're Croud global, because I feel I know you have US and the UK. And yeah, Matt's got over a decade of experience in digital marketing, bringing a blend of data-driven expertise and a deep understanding of AI to the table, enabling him to design and optimize strategies that have driven business growth and enhanced customer engagement and increasing retention across various industries. We are both like alma maters of the Marketing Week mini MBA in marketing with Mark Ritson, which is lovely. We need to send this to him and be like, yeah, both of us, the graduates of his university, come together, and we still credit him for the fantastic learnings that we got from his mini MBA. He's also done an AI, as in Matt, not Mark now. Matt has done an AI and machine learning course with the University of Texas at Austin. Some lovely, interesting facts. We had a sing song before here because I was like, Matt is like an Englishman in New York, like the Englishman in New York that Sting sang about. Yeah, he's one of those famous folks. Loves to travel. And he wanted to be a pilot at some point. I find that very interesting. He says he's going to weave that into the story that he's going to talk about. So really looking forward to that. And at some point, he tried his hand at stand-up comedy. You just did it for one show. Why, Matt? Why did you deprive New York of your comedic skills?
Because it didn't go terrible. And I feel like things like that, you quit while you're ahead. So
Yeah.
it goes well. That's it. One and done.
I don't know. I feel like if the paid search field, if AI takes over all our roles, I think that going back into comedy, that we need to laugh. Our world needs a bit more laughter. So maybe think about.
My earnings would plummet if I did that. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. But
Oh, let's hope not. Let's hope not. Okay. Yeah, this is really, again, really grateful that you're on this podcast with us. And because, yeah, talking about mistakes is not something a lot of other podcasts do. I don't think any other podcast, I'm not listening to any other podcast where it's all about talking about errors and failures. And we see a lot of people bragging about their work, which understandably, that's how you make it. That's how you gain your new clients. But I think there's also room to be human. We never leave on a defeated note. We're gonna talk about what was the defining thing that turned it around and continue to make you a trusted leader in the field. Yeah, let's get into it. No more rambling from me. Let's hear from Matt. Matt, what's the effort you'd like to share with us today?
So when I first saw this question, first of all, thanks for having me on. I do think it's great to do this and share failures because, as you rightly say, if people don't talk about it enough, it can feel like you're the only person who's making these mistakes, which is far from the truth.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry long enough to have more mistakes than I'd like to admit. The one that comes to mind, though, as the first one that really impacted me, taught me a lot, was I think I'd started at Croud. I'd been here for about a year. So this was 7 years ago. And I guess some additional context. I came into paid search as a proper job when I was about 29, 30. So I felt like I was having to start again, not in a new industry. So I come from affiliate marketing.
Right.
I'd been in affiliate marketing prior to that, been made redundant, had to start again in paid search. So it's a bit of a catch up, needed to really do well. And I was on a client that was a gaming developer in the UK, pretty big name. And they had this one title and the budget for it per month was, I think it was about 20K a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized on the first day of the next month that I'd overspent by £2,000.
Oh.
And as soon as I realized that, it was worst feeling in the world. It's all, even just trying to go back there, it's like, it's so horrible. And remembering back, I think there's probably like a period of maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes where I sat within myself and tried to just deal with the emotion and then fact find what happened, why did it happen? And it was like, okay, now I need to book a meeting with my boss, a guy called James at the time. Had a meet with him later that day, sat down and was like, there's no point in trying to beat around it. I'll just come straight out. And he was very matter of fact about it. He didn't try to say, oh, it's okay. I think he realized that it is an area you need to kind of learn from. He gathered the facts and then we communicated to the client pretty quickly. And that was a big learning for me, is that with these mistakes, you kind of have to figure out what's happened, get the facts, find out why it happened. And then as quickly as possible, go to the client, communicate it. Here's why it happened. Here's why it's never going to happen again. Just deal with it very quickly. And I think because you do that very fast, it's not over, but like go through the process pretty quickly. The only person who made me feel slightly better was the client lead on our side at the time. He said that he reassured me that he'd seen a previous, or maybe he himself had made a previous overspend that was like 50 times more than that. And that was when I realized, okay, I'm not the worst person at paid search, and like this did happen. So yeah, that's the one I think of.
Okay. So what caused the overspend to actually happen? Was it like a targeting issue or like a budget, daily budget limits was not set right? What was the thing that had gone wrong?
Yeah, I think from memory, it was miscommunication. I think I maybe thought it was 22 and it wasn't, it was 20.
Yeah.
So from memory, I think I misunderstood. And then I think the way it happened was I checked the first day of the next month, and noticed that actually the comms were that it was 20, not 22. And that was my spend. But yeah, my misunderstanding on the budget amount. Not good.
No, not good. Yeah, because you almost have a double decline when I think you're not listening to them when the briefing that they've put in and all that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah. And what you said, your manager was very matter of fact. But how did you feel about it? How did you feel in that meeting? Was it a bit like a awful mess that you felt, or afterwards was it like, okay, let's just learn and move on?
I think eventually learn and move on, but it took a while, probably a week. And I think that the first moment it happened in the first few days did feel pretty terrible. I think because my manager was very matter of fact about it. He wasn't like, oh, this is terrible, it's really bad. He wasn't like, don't worry about it. He was just very middle of the road. You couldn't really tell what he was thinking. I think that's because the manager, and I can appreciate that now, his main thought was like, how do I fix this? How do I fix? He doesn't really care necessarily about blame. It's just like, how do you fix it? So I think because of that, he didn't make me feel any better or worse, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Which I think I appreciate it, because you do need to, that made sure that I was more accountable and took ownership of that mistake, which is really important for then learning. And I can tell you now, there are things I still do today on accounts that are as a result of that happening
Okay.
7 years ago. So
Yeah. So what are those things? What are those things that specifically that you make sure that you do now because of that story?
yeah, so the Croud, we have pretty good level of like intraday and day reporting. And so that gets emailed to us, we get alerts, we get different dashboards. So we've got plenty of places to look at hourly and daily data. I look at that all the time. Certainly first thing in the morning is one of the first things I do. And then during the day on certain accounts, I will look at the hourly reports to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
still in the detail a little bit.
Yeah. A lot of the detail. Yeah, because I don't know, like I feel that could be because it's someone's role definitely to be in the detail. Whether that's your role, I'd argue maybe it's not. In terms of yeah, I don't know. Look, I don't even do account manager anymore, so do not take it back from me as to what role is for different people in different teams. I know it can be very different now with AI revolution and all that kind of stuff going on. But I'd also say that I'd be interested to know that how that impacts client communication, even like how does that impact client processes? Because what stuck out to me was the fact that, okay, maybe you did see that you thought it was 22K. Let's say, for example, it was actually 20K. Is there anything in terms of like actually the client processing on terms of the detailing as to what the budget is for the month, for the year that you do differently?
Yeah. But both me personally and as any agency grows and develops the processes and automation just increases. So it's almost, I'm not going to say it's impossible to make that mistake again, because I really shouldn't say that. But there are certainly a lot more processes in place as a company that gets larger. Yeah, there's places where there are centralized records that have budgets. Both exterior to the platform and then in the platform, obviously you put account budgets now and do that. I was thinking about this earlier. I do feel like overspends generally seem less common. And I don't know if that's because platforms have changed slightly and it's less, like it's harder to do that now. But I can't really think of why that would be, because on campaign budgets can still spend 200% or double.
Double them. I was going to say, when you said overspend is not possible, I'm like, dude, which platform are you talking about? Google will overspend. In the blink of an eye, you letter.
It's definitely still possible. But yeah, all those processes and spread documentation has meant that it's just far less likely now.
It's far less likely. No, that's good. I want your advice for someone going through this right now. Like someone's like just been in the middle of, they have overspent by a couple of grand, they're junior in their role, they're really nervous. What's your advice to them?
Great question. I would say, first of all, don't think you're the only person in the world that's ever done that. There's plenty of people that have made that mistake. And those people have still gone on to have great careers, very smart people. It is always good to take ownership and accountability. Don't try and make excuses or pass it off. Own up to what your mistake, depending on your part in it all. But I think that's really important, because that helps you to internalize it and then make sure that it doesn't happen ever again. Like when you take ownership of something like that, you're so motivated to make sure it never happens again. You will go and do things like I mentioned. I still look at reports and dashboards. And to your point, at my level, probably shouldn't be doing that as much as I do. And it's definitely people on my team's role. And we'll come on to this, but there's an important role I have to play where I have to give the room to own that stuff and then potentially make their own mistakes, because I can't. Because if I'm there constantly, there's no room for those people to own that stuff. And so, yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a thought process. I have problems with that. I have problem with delegating. I do a lot of things and I'm like, why did I do this admin? I hear the weeds of things when you really shouldn't be. So I get that when you just want things to be right, you do things a certain way, but then you don't necessarily give your team the opportunity to learn that mistake, or not even to learn from your mistake. And I don't know, is it a story that you've ever shared with your team in terms of, because I think they might look and be like, why is Matt always looking at the daily budgets? And maybe after they've listened to this episode, oh, that's why. Because is that something that you've ever shared with your team? This is why I look into the daily?
Good question. I've not shared that specific example. I will say that they probably don't know. They will now if they watch this, but they probably don't know I look at those reports as much as I do. It's more like I will look at it, and it takes me 2 seconds. It's not like I will look at that stuff, and it's more just making sure that the process is around the team, ensure that they're looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm not necessarily being like, they don't know I'm looking at
No.
for a second.
You will now, right? Okay. But no, I think it's a nice thing for the team to know. And they'll know the why. In fact, I think it's if they know and they just don't know the why, I think that's where it can be dangerous. But if they know the why, I think that story moves on. That really makes sense in their head. And so you're managing your team, and you spoke about how your manager did not necessarily try to cuddle you through this process. He was just like, okay, this is what we messed up. This is what we need to do. Bam. Is that a good way, would you say, of approaching that? Did that help you? Or would you have rather had a different style in terms of how the manager approached the issue?
Yeah, good question. I think for me personally, that was probably the right approach.
Okay.
And I think as a manager myself, I would probably do something similar. But then that said, I think you probably also need to tailor it to the person. If you've got somebody who is clearly very upset about it, then you probably need to take a slightly different approach to make sure that mistake doesn't really set them back too much.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if it's someone who is barely fazed by it, then you probably need to make it a bit clearer that this is a mistake and it will happen again. Yeah. So yeah, generally middle of the road, but I think probably tailored depending on the individual.
How they purchase. Yes, I know. I think that this might make me sound so old, but like the younger generation, I feel that right. But like the newer, the more junior folks that are coming, yeah, I do feel nervous for some of them that feel like, like this podcast is to share that mistakes can happen, but it's not about being lax about them. It's not about being like mistakes that happen, so whatever. I'll just do my bare minimum and mistakes happen. I think it's still important to go with your best foot forward, and when the mistake happens, approach it. For me, it's like the analogy: the person who has done wrong shouldn't be the one who decides how the situation is approached, whether it's a strict matter or it's not a strict matter, kind of thing. If you've made a mistake, come owning it, come with a contrite, oh my God, so sorry, I've done this, try not to do it again, and showing that effect of how you're going to improve yourself with it afterwards, which I think is what you're doing. So regardless of that whole, you're senior, you're still looking at the daily thing. Imagine your manager, even if you're not manager you had, if they listen to this episode, they'd be proud. They'd probably be like, oh, good on man. Man definitely learned his lesson, because he's still, even as senior as he's got, he's still making sure that he looks at those daily reports, right?
Yeah, I probably will send it to him actually. Well, I'll let you know his reaction.
I'd love to hear that. I definitely would. So let's do, before we round up that great story that you just shared with us, what's like your biggest takeaway that you'd like to leave our audience with about that lesson in terms of not making that mistake and how you approach it?
Yeah, I think it probably covered the main things like the ownership and accountability.
Yeah.
Getting through it, find the facts, communicating it internally, for sure, externally if that's your responsibility, getting that done as quickly as possible, and making sure you follow that step of find the facts, what's happened, why did it happen, communicate that to the client, and then tell them why it's not going to happen again, and move on from that. I think more broadly, my advice generally in that area of spend and performance is just really make sure you've got eyes on that stuff, because what that put in me was almost like, this is my money, so it's my money that's being spent. I think when you have that attitude, you care more, you look at the data more. I think it makes you better at your job as well. And I think by having that attitude, that really shines through to clients, and clients want to work with people who care about their business.
Absolutely.
There are many ways to show up and do that, but I think really treating it like you're a part of this, maybe not with your money, maybe that's a bit extreme, but you've got a stake in making it well and effectively. I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, even like the whole, it's budget. Don't necessarily treat it like it's your budget, because we're not saving lives here. And that's why, you know what, we're not saving lives here. And that's why talking about mistakes is not a wrong thing at all. But do show that you care. Do show that, look, this is a client's budget. They entrusted it in you. And it's all about proving that they have chosen the right people to entrust and trust their money with. So yeah, that's all very important. Thank you so much, Matt, for that fantastic story. And now switching the spotlight away from you. Yeah, you're not the only one in our industry that has made mistakes. Some of the mistakes that you see, we're not asking you to name names, but what are some of some of the worst mistakes, especially even like in more recent years, that you think, wow, guys, the industry has gone on for long enough that you shouldn't be making these mistakes? What are some of the mistakes that you see, that most popular ones that you see that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, maybe a bit of an extension of what we've just talked about, but performance stuff. So not noticing certain negative trends, accounting for longer than you should. We're talking days. But even in those situations, I think everybody, do I want to say this?
You got to.
What I want to say, I think what's more important is not necessarily the mistake you make, it's what you learn from it, and then when it happens again. Like I nearly said, everyone gets to make that one mistake. The key thing is not making it twice. So that's why I'm a bit hesitant to say, oh, you shouldn't make this mistake, you shouldn't make that mistake, because I probably made most of them, and I'm still here. So I think, the key thing is just learning from it, not doing it twice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
The other thing I'd add to that, and even just about the whole flying thing, the comparison I had there was when I was learning, and I got my early 20s, there was, I find it before coming on, there was either a magazine or a forum, and part of one of the sections was mistakes made by other pilots or something like that. And the whole premise was you won't live long enough to make all the mistakes. So you have to learn from other people. Now, again, mistakes are very different. And that's what we do. But I think the idea of really learning from other people's mistakes is really important as well.
Yeah, you definitely want to learn from other people's mistakes when it comes to piloting. What are the mistakes that you can walk away from when it comes to, in the pilot? That's the only ones that you want to dare make. Since you are the expert in AI here, you've done a proper university degree here on it. I knew it's a course, but hey, it was a proper course from the University of Texas. Let's give them their props. Let's give you your props. AI mistakes that you see, and what I'd love for you to get for our listeners is that not just AI mistakes that you've heard other people mention, the ones that are not being talked about, that you feel like, oh, I can't believe people are not talking about this, are actually because I think there's a lot of AI talk. There's a lot of, oh, Gemini's not doing this properly. ChatGPT is not doing properly. Oh yeah, you're not doing this right. But I feel that could be possibly a distraction. I'm not sure. Maybe there isn't. There could be a distraction from what are the big issues that people are not paying attention to yet. Are there any of those that you've perceived?
The things that come to mind, I don't know if they're things like a claim that nobody's talking about, but what comes to mind is first of all talking about AI and prophesizing what AI is going to do in a certain industry when you're not really in that industry, or you're not using it like to a large extent within the industry.
Yeah.
So, and what I notice is the people who are really using this stuff, whether it's the LLMs, whether it's vibe coding or whatever it is, people who are in their industry doing this stuff aren't talking about AI like it's going to replace everything. Like they're seeing the limits of the tools, they're understanding the opportunities, they're quantifying what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah.
And that just makes the whole conversation less emotional. AI is going to take everything to more. Here's what it can do, here's what it can't do. So I think anybody that talks about AI replacing everything, or even just a large part, I'm like, okay, how much are you in that industry and how much are you really testing the tools and finding the limits?
Yeah.
Because I vibe code. I don't love the term vibe code, but
it's totally you're not actually creating anything real. It's like you're just going by vibes and learn. Oh God, yeah.
It's not a vibe. And I've used ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and then things like Replit, Lovable. And I finished building something last night, and it took me about 4 weeks to build it vibe coding. And it is not very stable at all. And it connects together a few different sources.
Yeah.
From my experience, what I found is if you don't have any coding knowledge, it would probably take even longer. I can write Python okay. So I know a little bit about what needs to connect to what and how it needs to connect, so I can make sure the prompts account for that. It's still took me a long time, and it's still pretty shaky. Maybe that's a reflection of just my building ability. But I think if you're really trying to do complex stuff, the best you're going to get to is like an MVP, a basic product that works a little bit, but it's just good about using it.
Yeah.
And again, that comes from testing this stuff, getting into it, finding limitations, finding what's possible. And I think the last thing I'd say is, and maybe I'm not super qualified to talk about this in any great depth, but AI it's still just math.
Okay.
You break down the algorithms, it is just really complex. Or in some cases, basic math, but just built on top.
Yeah.
As well. I think, again, I'm not super qualified to talk about it in depth about that in that way. But I think when you break it down to that, you realize it isn't necessarily super intelligence or artificial intelligence. It's something slightly different. The way it shows up, manifests itself, looks kind of magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember like the sort of basics of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember the basics of it. It's maths and it has so many limitations. I think where you're just talking about there about people overemphasizing it, I think the SEOs have it worse because God, the amount of SEO is dead. SEO is dead. Like the team in our the search engine land, we're going to do a webinar at 2:30 Eastern time. Literally, I'm like Barry Short, Danny Goodwin coming together, just being frustrated. I think they just saw an article from in the New York Times. And you're like, oh my God, we're done with this. I think we just had a person, we're going to go on a webinar and just rant on about how SEO is not dead. Because that's what everybody is talking about it. Someone even put in the PPC Live WhatsApp group, like, and even there's a careers area in it. So it's saying, oh, by the way, is SEO dead? Because I'm thinking of branching out from PPC. And this was a subgroup of SEO professionals helping each other. And I was like, you're asking SEO professionals in this group whether their jobs are obsolete. I don't understand those questions. I think people just want to sensationalize the conversation and feel like they're saying something all big and thought-provoking by saying, oh, God, SEO is dead. I think it's a very lazy way to start the conversation. But yeah, I think it's I want to talk more to people like you who are trying one. I know we hate the term vibe coding, like, but vibe coding, what, and it's someone who's got like your AI experience, got your coding experience, can create something that it's not necessarily stable kind of thing. I think there's hope for the fact that, yeah, digital marketing will still need people that have the brains to actually know what their customers want and actually use that properly. We're still going to need the people who are coders or deep coders who know how to have the brains to put all these systems together. And yeah, humans are still going to be needed in this system, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah. I think just to add to that.
Sure.
Sometimes I break down the people who go to this stuff generally fall into one or two. You either really lean more towards the marketing side. So
Yeah.
you're good at understanding fundamentals of marketing and how that shows up in like paid search, or you're more of like an algorithm person. I just love finding out how to get more out of the system, whether that's optimizing RSAs or do manual keyword bids back in the day, or even now it's like different bid strategies or different campaign structures.
Yeah.
You're an algorithm person. I think both of those type of people are still going to be around, just what they do slightly differently. There's going to be different algorithms to optimize towards.
Yeah.
Be different inputs, but the way you think and the way you are motivated to optimize algorithms, like that's still a really valuable skill. I think that's going to stay around for a while, if not become more valuable. And on the marketing side, obviously, how all this stuff translates from a marketing perspective and things you do still will be super valuable. So
yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. I feel like we veered off into a conversation that I'm like, we're running out of time, but I literally will love another half an hour conversation about that, but we're going to stay on track and maybe we've got to invite you, Matt, for another episode to talk more about this AI stuff, because I feel that you just got a very sensible POV about it, just like a sense, and I'm like, that makes sense. So yeah, honestly, yeah, Matt, again, thank you so much for joining the episode today. Before we leave you, a very fun, non-AI, non-paid search, anything digital marketing question, what related. If your PPC career were a movie, what would be the title?
this is probably the question I spent most time trying to prep for. Yeah. I had no idea, so I did turn to ChatGPT.
Oh,
I think my favorite ones were The Algorithm Always Wins, which is
okay.
your title.
Okay.
Honey, I Shrunk the CPC.
And that's a lovely one. I like.
And then the last one I'll leave you with is the good, the bad, and the bounce rate. Which I thought was
Oh wow, okay. Well, I think I like my favorite one is Hardly I Shrunk the CPC, because it's a very positive way for like consultants to be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to help you with. I'm here to help shrink your CPCs, because that's what we're all talking about. There's so many articles I write about. It's like, oh yeah, CPCs have gone up, costs have gone up. Yep, beware, Google wants to take your money. We know that already. Nothing new there. So just hang on in there and keep working for your clients' revenue, keep owning your mistakes, and yeah, keep thriving in our industry. Anyway, Matt, where can people hear you talk about, some of the lovely discoveries? And you have a podcast too as well, do you?
Yep, paid search NYC, Spotify, YouTube, and then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the main platform. Yeah, find me on there.
Amazing. We'll share the links for everybody on that on the show notes. So yeah, go follow Matt on all these exciting ventures he's doing. And thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today.
Thanks, Alan. Fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing that very honest and transparent experience of yours and giving us a very great insight as to really how we should be preparing for the future of paid search, how we should be with our mindset of the present of paid search, about how algorithms and all this AI is quite complicated maths, but it is just maths. And I feel like when you look at maths, when you say maths, you think to myself, it can't be that simple, but sometimes it is. And I really feel it does tie in with what Garrett Westhead said in our previous episode, that really it's about shit in, shit out, excuse my French. So yeah, it's about what you put in is what you're going to get out. And maths, it's all about equation. One side has to be equal to, it's going to match the other side. Yeah, it's not that hard. Use it to help the work that you do, but really honestly bring your brain into it. And recently, just before recording this episode, I put up a blog on the PPC Live site talking about the future of AI and how PPC experts should be and what AI really has taken in terms of the work that we do, but what AI really will not take as well, and how PPC experts still need to be part of the solution for brands and when they want to do digital advertising. So go check that out to give yourself the confidence that you are still needed, even with the whole AI revolution. So yeah, for the full transcript of this episode, particularly, go to podcast.ppc.live. You'll get the full transcript, show notes, everything, and all details about the whole talk. And and also PPC Live events, there will be an online version of our PPC Live 17 event. So go onto the PPC Live site or go to our YouTube page or our LinkedIn page, and you'll see the recording if you're listening to this after 3 p.m. UK time, or if you're listening to it after 1 p.m., earlier than 1 p.m., 10 a.m. If you're listening to after 10 a.m. Eastern time, you want to check out the recording of it. Otherwise, go check it out and watch it live. We had 3 excellent talks that we're going to replay to you. And Aisha and Paul Salome are going to be joining us live for a live Q&A from you, if you'd like to. So join us for that. And also, before I leave, I'm also delighted to share that I am taking on coaching clients. So if you want to really just improve the confidence in yourself and in what you do in terms of digital advertising and take control of your career, why don't you send me a message, send me a DM on LinkedIn, and we can chat about how to work with you on that. So yes, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I look forward to bringing more PPC F-ups and triumphs next week. Thank you. Bye.